Hope you guys had a great Friday. Happy Saturday. Let's go ahead and jump into this weekend brief. We have a short list before us on this lovely morning, starting with a little bit of market coverage, taking a look at some news, and then getting a gauge of where the averages ended and how we may be going into next week, and then heading into the infamous Comfort System USA's earnings call details, which was a bombshell. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. We see that crypto is pushing, but basically holding steady at that $68,000 mark, waiting on clarity from the Clarity Act. Let's go ahead and look at some of this news that dropped yesterday. Despite all the attention going to the Supreme Court's ruling on Trump's tariffs, the main indicator for the market should have been this PCE dropping yesterday. And what it signaled is that it rose, which may hinder the ability of the Fed to cut rates, which is a proponent to the market pushing higher. They may even be in a position where they need to raise rates because inflation is still being difficult. So other than that, let's look at some of the details of the Supreme Court ruling. So some of the main points is that after this ruling, Trump said that the ruling was deeply disappointing. Probably seen his post on Truth Social. He says that he will order 10% global tariffs to replace struck down duties, so signing an executive order for that. More than $175 billion at risk have been refunded, economists estimate, which may take so much time to litigate. So the companies that paid off those tariffs may not have those refunds for years, maybe decades to come. But another thing to note is that Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, actually gave a response to this ruling, saying that the tariffs will still be in place just through another route. We'll look at that in a second. But Trump also said that some trade deals with countries will stand, but some won't. So we'll get information on that in the coming weeks. And that is mainly it. Let's take a look at what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said about this ruling very quickly.
I would also like to take a moment to address today's Supreme Court ruling, and I would note that I did not change a single word in my speech post the ruling. President Trump will always put our national security and Americans first. And as I have said before, the president has multiple tools in his toolbox. Let's be clear about what today's ruling was and what it wasn't. Despite the misplaced gloating from Democrats, ill-informed media outlets, and the very people who gutted our industrial base, the court did not rule against President Trump's tariffs. 6 justices simply ruled that IEEPA authorities cannot be used to raise even $1 of revenue. This administration will invoke alternative legal authorities to replace the IEEPA tariffs. We will be leveraging Section 232 and Section 301 tariff authorities that have been validated through thousands of legal challenges. Treasury's estimates show that the use of Section 122 authority, combined with potentially enhanced Section 232 and Section 301 tariffs, will result in virtually unchanged tariff revenue in 2026. And with
So if these companies and a lot of industries or countries thought they were getting away from the tariffs, obviously they had a backup plan set in place. But let's go ahead back to the market. We're going to take a look at the S&P, do a little bit of chart analysis on there. After we see how the averages ended the week, we had the S&P ended in the green, a nice little push on Friday after that ruling at plus 0.69%. NASDAQ ending at plus 0.90%, almost 1% gain after that good news for them. And the Dow Jones also surging to plus 0.47%. So the general market is surging off that ruling, not dropping because tariffs cost companies money. If the tariffs go away, then guess what? That means profits should go up and margins should increase. Other than that, let's look at the S&P in a little bit of detail. Then we'll take a look at Bitcoin in detail, and we will end the weekend there. Looking at the daily time frame as far as the S&P, it seems like we did have a bit of a bounce. We had a low, we still have this low at 6,775 and this most recent low at 6,833. So we'll get a better idea of the direction, but it's somewhat still heading in that heavy downtrend, or that general downtrend that the market typically sees in the first 3 to 4, maybe 4 to 6 months of the year, and then that change in trends, which we expect to see near the time that Congress has stated that the Clarity Act may be getting passed. So that may be an additional component that pushes the market to new highs in that reversal of trend that is expected after the patterns over the past few years. Let's go to the 30-minute time frame, see if there's any more detail we can get on this. And there's not too much. We see that it is bouncing up against this high at around 6,907. Hopefully we break through that going into Monday morning's trading hours, and we will just keep an eye on it. But right now we're still in a downtrend. Don't expect too much from the market. If you're investing in the market, what you want to think about is averaging down, buying into new positions, and watching those companies as we continue in this general downtrend in the market. And don't get too emotional, don't get too attached. But other than that, let's look at the Bitcoin. We'll go to the daily time frame, see what Bitcoin is doing, which is basically bouncing just like the market in a sideways trend, and it's doing the same thing as far as the 30-minute time frame. But daily time frame, we see that we're still in that sideways trend, so nothing to expect from crypto in general, just a period of consolidation. So averaging down, increasing your position, because you see all of these news articles, like some mentioned in my previous video, about a lot of the blockchain, crypto, finance institutions that are taking steps in these areas when it comes to crypto, when it comes to blockchain, when it comes to acquisitions around the world that are incorporating these foundations when it comes to the crypto world. So pay attention to that. Average down. Do not get emotional. Understand that crypto is the next financial revolution. Other than that, let's go ahead and we are going to head into some information regarding the Comfort Systems earnings call. And I am going to run through these points fairly quickly and maybe speak on some of them, but all of it was phenomenal news. As per my video yesterday, you know that they beat in earnings per share, they beat in revenue. It's just, I don't understand how people could miss this investing opportunity. But let me run through these points very quickly for you guys. So, one point to know, earnings per share up 129%. That's just wild. From last year, annual earnings per share increased by 98%. So quarter on quarter earnings per share increased by 129%. Annual compared to the 2024 year, earnings per share increased by 100%. It's wild. Oh, one other thing to note about this company, I was looking up as I was listening to the call and getting a little bit of information regarding their earnings. They mentioned that they had two main hyperscaler clients, and I was like, I didn't know that. Who are they? And guess who their two major hyperscaler clients are? Microsoft and Meta. Oh, crazy. They are set. My God. Add them to your portfolio, please. You'll thank me later. Some other major points. Their backlog increased by $12 billion, which was another annual record, which is phenomenal. I love the fact that they always have plenty of cash on hand. And there was mention from a few analysts on the call that said, what are they going to do to deploy that cash in a little bit, in a more advantageous manner, because they're sitting on a lot of cash. But what the CEO noted was that they don't like to just spend money to spend money. They like to be strategic whenever they're investing in a company or acquiring another business. They want that business to be set, to have had longevity, have had somewhat of a family environment, a team of engineers, a team of electricians, a team of mechanics, a team of HVAC specialists who have worked together for years. They look for quality companies, not just to add to the numbers and to profits. So they're very strategic. They're very intentional when it comes to how they use the free cash flow that they produce. in general. Another thing to note is that they do plan to expand their modular data center from 3 million square feet to about 4 million square feet, specifically in Texas and North Carolina. If you do not know, North Carolina is one of the hot spots for data centers, for technology, for growth, for population migration in the United States. If you don't understand how big North Carolina is going to be in the next few years, you should think twice. And if you are an investor in housing, it may be a good market to buy up a few places over the next couple of years because of the population migration to the state. But that's besides the point. They did have 2 new acquisitions during last year's fiscal year, which were very essential to building or securing their labor in the electrical fields and in other different industries. One major thing to note, and this is what you like to see when it comes to the finances when it comes to a company like this, is that they were able to decrease their SG&A cost. That's the administration costs, business costs, paying for labor and things like that. But just the holding the foundations of the business together, the mainly white collar portion of the business. But the big thing about this is it's decreased. Yes, their spending increased, but because their revenue has increased so much, it's only been a small portion of their profits. It's only cost them a small portion of the general revenue to expand to a point to maintain their profits, the workload, and their productivity. So that is nice to hear. Also, a major point is that their capital expenditure is only 1.7% of their revenue, which is major. All we hear over the recent few weeks as far as earnings is capital expenditures are through the roof. They're wise with their money. That's all they're saying. A few other things to note. The industrial sector, including technology, is still providing 67% of the revenue. We are going to use this specific data point to gauge where the AI revolution is as far as the boom and build out of data centers in general. So on the next earnings call and in their next report, quarterly report and annual reports, we're going to keep an eye on things like this and points like this to gauge, are we reaching the high point or the peak of the AI boom or not? 86% of revenue was from construction, 40% for maintenance, 63% on new construction. One thing to note about their backlog is that it's 1 to 2 years in the making. So most of everything that is in the backlog was planned out 1 to 2 years ago. So they have not even tapped into all the capital expenditures from these hyperscalers that they're pouring into data centers now. So we'll be probably seeing the results of that as far as profits and revenue and things along those lines in 2027 and 2028. So this is it's churning. It's growing. This company has a lot of room to run. There was a point made as far as some of the analysts asking regarding the labor shortage. What Comfort Systems CEO stated was that they have made acquisitions in the past few years as far as labor companies or companies that provide either temporary or labor services to make sure that they are shored up in that area. And once again, they are very intentional about the companies that they acquire so that they have the correct labor, the correct mindset, the correct culture when it comes to building out the productivity of this company. Other major point, new building investment in North Carolina. They're looking into that actually currently, so that's cool to see. And then one thing I want to round their earnings call off with is this. So Comfort Systems USA is going to be our gauge for the AI boom. So we're going to pay close attention to labor, close attention to productivity, close attention to their backlog, because they are going to give us a temperature of the general economy and the hyperscalers focus on building out data centers and when that's going to come to an end. Because at that point, we will see more of their revenue transferring over to maintenance rather than new construction. we'll see that their hiring or their acquisitions of new companies may slow down because they no longer need all of the labor to build out new construction. All they will need is labor to maintain and to update. So we're to keep an eye on that. But other than that, guys, Conference Systems USA, man, if you don't have them in your portfolio, it's I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I post about this company all the time, but as far as the monthly time frame, solid chart. Daily time frame is just steady, not as volatile as most stocks in the market right now and nowadays. 30-minute time frame, heading in an uptrend, heavy uptrend. We had a big jump after the earnings and everything, and yeah, it's a great portfolio stock to have. And my goodness, this thing was I remember last year, this thing was like $300 or $400. That's wild, man. But other than that, guys, that's all that I have for you on this lovely weekend. I will see you guys on Monday. Don't forget to start the future, like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, add Conference Systems USA to your portfolio. Invest, because in 1 to 5 years, we want to be able to fire our boss. Okay? Retirement is lovely. Dictating what to do with your time is lovely. Being able to fund your dream, fund your goal, fund a easy life for your children and their future is amazing. Okay? So don't forget to start the future. Have a great weekend, and I will see you guys early Monday morning in the pre-market brief.